Hello, my Teaserking family. Finally, the first two times all the balls were white, so I knew I didn't have audio. So I had to delete it, and then I shut my computer down and restarted it, and now I'm okay. Sometimes I guess it just gets too messy and gets slow, and you got to just turn it off and log back in. How's everybody today? July 24th already. We got football. I think football was it Monday night or Sunday with the Bears in Tennessee? Oh, it must be a Sunday. The Hall of Fame game. Caleb should play the whole game, but of course he won't because he might get injured. And really, he's working on his tennis game because he might get hurt in football, and we don't want that to happen. Quickly, gold back up to 24.04. An interesting day. So we don't get any derivatives, and it goes 24.18. And it pops up to 24.32. So we're like, okay. And then, of course, the 10:30, 11 o'clock U.S. derivatives, and they're milking it down. It's 24.04. Silver, 29. Okay, we're not worried. See, you can see gold went back to 24.32. And don't know why the U.S. is doing the derivatives. I guess they make money on the derivatives if they can buy them. So they're selling 24.32. I don't know what the buy is. Can they get the buy low enough to successfully complete the option? We will see. I listened to Andy Scheckman today, and I don't know what he said. Nothing he said made sense. I didn't understand the title. And I'm listening, and I'm like, what's the guy talking about? It had nothing to do with the title. He doesn't understand comex. He now thinks it's the hedge funds that control the comex. No, it's the bullion banks writing. It's J.P. Morgan writing the derivatives. There's a few bullion banks, but they have to have physical to do it. He doesn't understand that. And Russia, China buying it. So he doesn't understand that. I'll play that one for you just so I can walk you through what to, when to laugh and when not to laugh. All right, 24.04 gold. See, it's weird. It's all, if you're looking at it, last week it's 24.60, 24.7, or 23.60, 23.70. You're happy at 24. Then it goes up to 24.89 and it's 24.04 and you're sad it's 24. So we're, again, it's a little battle. They don't want the price to go up. I don't know why. I assume it's because we don't have any. There's no other reason. There's no correlation between that and the dollar. It doesn't make sense. All right. Baseball, we had a few games. Philly and Mini are tied at 4. I did take Philly. Milwaukee and the Cubs, I didn't play it. Colorado, Boston, I didn't play it. Houston and Oakland, I have got Oakland over 8.5, 3 units. 1-0 in the bottom of the first. California, Seattle. I've got Seattle. That's just started. Apologize for the late. Hey, Greg and John. Well, I wouldn't say hi to her. She's like super communist, but a moron. So really, there's not much to say about her. I heard some interesting news. I was listening to Robert F. Kennedy on one of these short 5-minute YouTube ones. And he has to run on an independent because he can't run as a Democrat. They don't want him. But then the scary news is about Trump. He says, well, Trump's Commerce Secretary is going to be Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, the biggest crook of all. And his Treasury Secretary will be Larry Fink. And I'm like, oh, my God. If these two clowns are in, the gold's going to go to the moon because they're going to sit there and do what they're doing now, which is print and print and print. And Trump doesn't see it. He doesn't see the gold. He doesn't see the inflation. He doesn't see the dollar is gone. Just blows my mind how stupid these people are. All right. So we got Cincinnati, Atlanta at 6:05. Nick Martinez, 3-5 with a 3.88 against Chris Sale, 13-3 with a 2.70. I thought he was pitching the other day. Don't know where he lost. We're betting Chris Sale, and he's not pitching. So I've got Atlanta 5 units, and I got Atlanta under 7.5 for 3 units. TK sounds good, buddy. What sounds good? Jamie Dimon, the baseball. All right. Detroit at Cleveland. We got pitchers. Cleveland minus 150, over under a 7. Detroit's been hitting. They have been scoring a lot of overs. Jack Flaherty, 7-5 with the 3.13 against Tanner Bibby, 8-4 with the 3.58. So you got under pitchers, an under bullpen for Cleveland, a terrible bullpen for Detroit. Detroit's starting to hit better. Cleveland hits okay. Let's see. Cleveland hits 260. So they're just, it's either you bet on Cleveland or you don't bet it. I'm going to leave it alone. I don't like the pitchings, both. It's an under game, but the teams are hitting too well. So I'm not going to say the streak of Detroit, they've been betting over, they've been winning. I don't want to fuck with the streak, so I'm not going to play it. Baltimore, Miami, Chase McDermott. Where did they get this guy from? 0-0 with an 0-0 against Edward Cabrera, 1-3 with the 7.36. I'm going to go over here. Baltimore. Yeah, I did. Baltimore over 8.5. I made my picks at like 10 in the morning before I went to the pool, and waiting to go to the pool. I come back, so now we'll go through it. A few games have gone, but I didn't think there was 4 games gone. San Diego, Washington. San Diego minus 110 and 9. Matt Waldron, 5-9, 3.59. Mitchell Parker, 5-5, 3.90. And we played this game under 9. San Diego under 9. The Subway Series, the Mets and the Yankees. Yankees 175, 8.5. Sean Manaea, 6-4, 3.70. Garrett Cole, 3-1 with the 4.60. And I went with the Yankees under 8.5 because Manaea is pitching well, but Cole has started to pitch better. So his ERA is not indicative of he's coming back. He had a bad game, and now he's pitching really well. So let's go under. Tampa Bay, Toronto. I lost at this game yesterday. I'll go through the results in a minute. I had Toronto over 8.5. They didn't get there. Zach Eflin, 5-7 with the 4.14 for Tampa. Yariel Rodriguez, 1-3 with the 3.78 for Toronto. You'd think would be an over. I didn't play it. The White Sox against Texas. Texas 275, favorite 8.5. Chris Flexen 2-9 with the 5.22. Now we see why. Nathan Eovaldi 6-4 with the 3.36. So we're going to go Texas here, 5 stars. Arizona and Kansas City. Ryan Nelson 7-6 with the 4.78. Michael Waukaka 7-6, 3.55. I like Kansas City. I like Waukaka. I've been keeping an eye on him. He's been pitching pretty well. And the 49ers and the Dodgers. The Dodgers are $2 favorite at 8. Robbie Ray, he was on the Tigers. He sucked there. He's 0-0 with the 0-0-0. Tyler Glass now 8-5 with the 3.47. I'm not doing anything in this game. Finish game, Cincinnati 9, Atlanta 4. Oh, okay, they're playing a doubleheader. Oh, they must have got rained out again. And Pittsburgh 5, St. Louis nothing. I didn't play anything here. So not too bad. Pitt lost with our guy yesterday, 2-1. I keep getting burned on betting the ace, and they lose because the other pitcher's not really their ace. He's like a 3.8 ERA, and he shuts them out. But I think Atlanta's got a lot of injuries because their last 5 batters don't hit 200. So I can't bet them over. And you can see Cincinnati got them 9-4. Yeah, their relievers 0-2 with a 15.26 ERA. So anyway, Pirates 5, Cardinals nothing. Martin Perez 2-5 with a 5.20 shuts them out, and that's the problem. When you got a guy with a 5.20 ERA, he's not supposed to shut you out. But that's the problem with baseball. Greg and John, who you got? Yankees or Mets? I don't play any of them. I told you I took the under in the game. Yankees under 8.5. Sounds like you're doing great with the picks. Thank you, Greg and John. Football is starting soon. Yes, we're all aware of that. You're doing great, TK, sir. Thank you. I do my best, and I try to make it logical and that everybody can follow. And I don't get a lot of questions if I don't understand. And I hear my class around a lot of different, like Andy Scheckman and Mark McGuire and Alligator, or use my terms, that cowboy, Titanic, all of a sudden he's talking Titanic. So a lot of these people, and Lynette Zhang uses me a lot. So you got these people that listen, don't give me credit, and then use it as if they know something, right? When you're good. But that's what I have. 2 interesting side notes. So I'm listening. Andy Scheckman will share. Doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. Andy Scheckman is like Peter Schiff. They will talk. They're salesmen, so they will talk, but they don't say a word. What does that mean? Well, they just, it's cloudy today, and it could be 3:00, and it might be raining. And is it Monday or Tuesday? What are you talking about? What's the point of your conversation? And they just rumble on to hear themselves think. Everybody, oh, he's so good. Like, fuck, you didn't say anything. Are you listening to what he's saying? Or are you just hearing him talk so you think he's doing well? You're welcome, Greg and John. So I've got that. And so listening on the radio to the bubbleheads. And the bubbleheads, excuse me. This is like Detroit radio, right? And the question comes up about the Tigers or the Lions. Lions, everybody thinks they'll get to the Super Bowl this year. Really? They won't win their division. And then they start looking at last year being a fluke. Well, what was fluky about last year? Well, there wasn't that a lot was fluked. It was they had a very weak schedule. They still lost 5 games to the Packers and Bears. If you're a really elite team, you don't lose to the Packers and the Bears. Then they lose to Seattle, and Baltimore kills them, and then they lose to Dallas. So you lost to a few teams you shouldn't. Then they beat KC week 1, which was a fluke. Kelsey doesn't play, and their defensive stud doesn't play. Contract can go out. Kelsey has an injury. Okay. So you want to count it that they beat KC at KC, even though Kelsey and the defensive lineman, I keep saying Neil Smith, I know that's not it, but whoever the defensive lineman is, the all-pro, they didn't play. Detroit won 21-20. They got a lucky interception where it deflected into the guy. And then they got a lucky holding penalty against KC, or KC kicks a field goal to win. So that's an asterisk game. They beat Kansas City in week 1 without 2 of their star players on a bad interception that's tipped. and a holding penalty on what would have been a first down to the 30 in the last minute of the game to win the game. So Detroit didn't do anything special. They scored on a pick six that was deflected. I got 14 points. But in week one, it's not like they beat Kansas City in the playoffs or in week 12 when they needed the game. So, yeah, that is a fluke. Beating KC was a fluke. They don't want to talk about the Baltimore game. So the only good team they played last year, Baltimore, beats them 34-0 or 38-3. They don't say a word. They lose to Dallas 20-19. And Dallas, as it turns out, wasn't very good. But they beat them. Dallas beats them. How did the Bears and Packers? That's where you get your fluke from. The Bears and Packers beat them. And then who did they beat that was any good? Minnesota had their third-string quarterback in there, and he lit them up for 400 yards with Jefferson in 2 games and C.D. Lamb in a game and the guy in Tampa, Evans. They all got over 200 yards passing. So you got a third-string quarterback for Minnie lighting them up. You've got Dak Prescott lighting you up, and you've got Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield lighting you up. That's pretty bad. So then you get in, okay, so they get into the playoffs. Now here's another fluke. Dallas and Philly fall apart. So instead of playing a real tough Dallas or a real tough Philly team, they get a break. Dallas gets the 2 seed. They're the 3 seed. They play the Rams, and the Rams played them pretty good, and they beat the Rams. We'll give them credit for that. But Dallas loses to Green Bay. So now instead of going to Dallas, they don't go there. They host. And then instead of Philly killing Tampa, because Philly's way better, Philly falls apart because of Matt Patricia. And now it's Detroit hosting Tampa instead of Detroit going to Dallas or Philly. So that's another fluke. And then, so they beat Tampa, who sucked, and they beat the Rams, which is a good win. Aaron Donald and Stafford was there, and Pukanuka had 25 catches. So basically, it was a good game. Give them credit. That's probably their best win. That's their only win against a real good team, right? They lost to Dallas and Baltimore, and their schedule was so ridiculously easy. They didn't play anybody. You had Atlanta, you had Carolina, you had New Orleans and Tampa. Yeah, that's the schedule, but that's the point. You beat a bunch of nobodies. When you got in against decent teams, you didn't have the Rams, you didn't have the Niners, you didn't have Philly, you have the Cowboys, which you lose to. You get Baltimore, you get killed, but you didn't have Pitt and that. You have KC, you catch game 1 when Kelsey and the defensive lineman is not playing. So right there, that's an asterisk. And then you get Oakland before they kind of got decent near the end when their coach, they brought in Aaron Pierce. San Diego played them to a 40-37 game. Okay, but San Diego kind of sucked. And then Denver didn't play very well because Russell Wilson. So the whole AFC West, they did win, but you got lucky on the times. Okay. So you got the AFC, you got the NFC South, which is the worst. They couldn't win a game in the Big Ten. And then you got the NFC West, which couldn't win a game except for Kansas City in the SEC. I mean, when they got Oakland, they were terrible. Denver, Russell Wilson was terrible, and San Diego had no defense, and the coach is fired. So it was 3 lousy teams they beat there. So, yes, they don't set the schedule. So they got lucky. They got lucky that they had the weak schedule that they had. Are they a big playoff team? I don't see it. Because when they got in against the 2 playoff teams, Baltimore and Dallas, they got killed by Baltimore, and Dallas beat them 20-19. And Seattle beats them, Green Bay, Chicago. Real good team when I lost to Chicago with Fields. and then you've got, that's it. Okay. And then you don't get rid of your defensive coordinator. So they're trying to say they drafted, defense secondary help. They're freshmen. They're not going to do anything. They still have the same defensive coordinator, so they didn't do anything. So the fluke it wasn't really a fluke. It was the easiest schedule next to Michigan's in football last year. Michigan's is another one where it's like a joke. They didn't play anybody. They got the terrible Ohio State team, the terrible Penn State team, and and then Alabama with Milrose, who should have beat them, and then they get lucky with Washington. So that was a fluke, Michigan winning. But in this case, the Lions wasn't a fluke. They got, they started lucky against KC. The two guys one guy's Kelsey's injured, the other guy's standing out, and he immediately signed after that game. So if they'd have played KC again week 5, they would have gotten killed. If they got them in the playoffs, they would have gotten killed. Because look what happened with Baltimore. It's funny how nobody wants to talk about the Baltimore game. Well, that's the exception. You played one good team and they kicked your ass. One good team. And guess what? Kansas City's better, and you just happened to get them week 1 with the ring ceremony, and their mind's on that, and the best two players aren't playing besides Mahomes. So, okay, they got the win, but it was a lucky win that their players weren't playing. The catch against the Niners, I heard the guy say, well, he forgets to mention there was defensive pass interference. So even if it doesn't hit the guy's face mask and Ayuk catches the ball, even if he doesn't do that, if the defender intercepts the ball, you got pass interference. So Frisco's getting the ball at the 5 anyway. So, stop like being like an infant and say, well, it hit off his mask. Yeah, you don't see the flag, so you don't want to mention the flag. Really? You don't want to see that the pass interference is going to give him the ball at the 5-yard line anyway. Okay, we'll forget that. And the Lions fumbled. That happens. You don't talk about the 2 4th down plays that they went for instead of kicking the field goals. I don't hear you talking about that. And I believe the Lions should have went to the Super Bowl last year because they had them 24/7. If you don't fuck around with the 4th downs, if you just kick the field goal, I think it was 24-10, goes 27-10. And guess what? You keep the momentum. Now you're going to win the game. But no, you do the only way you can lose is what you did. You go for it, you don't make it, gives 49ers, now it's 24-10, you give the 49ers momentum, which is one part they don't understand about going for 4th and not making it. They just assume, we'll make it because, 51% of the time against irrelevant teams and irrelevant games, it works. Not against the Niners, not against Baltimore, not against Dallas, not against Pittsburgh, not against Baltimore, not against a good team. Kansas City, it never worked. Oakland, forget about it. So you've got to understand who you're playing. I mean, that works against Carolina and Atlanta, but not the Niners. So the coach, being inexperienced, in over his head, makes a stupid decision. Then you get the long pass, which is interference anyway, so they're going to go 24-17. Lions fumble, probably a bad play call that Goff didn't get out. So 24. Then he fumbles, and 3 plays later, the Niners have now tied it up because you gave it to him. You gave him momentum. Then it's 27-24 Niners. You get the ball at their 30 on 4th down. You kick the field goal. You tie the game. How the fuck do you not tie the game? Who wouldn't tie the game? Our idiot coach. And then he goes and I should say the Lions idiot coach. And he goes and they don't get it. And then the Niners, boom, 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 score a touchdown. Now it's 34-24. The great defense doesn't hold. Now, maybe you're saying, I have a terrible defense, so I probably should go for 4th down. You got to keep the momentum. And what happened in the first half? It's 24-7. Where did the offense go? So keep in mind, you don't get it. 2 touchdowns. They kick it's now 24 all. Where's your offense? Then they don't get it. It's 27-24. Now it's 34-24. So you're still at 24 in the second half. You got 24-7 lead. And now it's 34-24. The Niners, you haven't scored. You have blown 2 field goal attempts that you didn't take. There's no excuse for it. So the Lions should have been in the Super Bowl last year. That was their chance. They had all the flukes. They had Dallas losing to Green Bay. They had Philadelphia losing to Tampa, which opened the door where now they get to host the Rams, and then they get to host Tampa instead of going to Dallas or Philly. So you got lucky there as part of the fluke. You got the fluke against KC. Kelsey didn't play, and the defensive lineman didn't play. So those two are kind of, I don't know about fluke, but breaks, asterisks. How hard's Kansas City going to play week 1 when they get in their rings? You'll watch it this week. They get Baltimore. You watch. They probably, they might lose. It'll be a close game. But it's, I think they'll be more focused because it's Baltimore than Detroit. But Detroit got an easy schedule. And they still managed to lose 5 games, even beating Kansas City. So wait, you tell me they're good because they won at Kansas City. You lost to the Bears and Green Bay and Dallas. You lost to Dallas because your coach had his head up his ass again. You go for 2. You screw up the whole thing by having the wrong lineman go to the referee. Not that it mattered, because the lineman goes into the defensive huddle and says, number 70 is eligible. So no matter if you could have had 15 guys go to the ref to try to fool Dallas, the ref's going to the Dallas huddle saying number 70 is eligible. So they covered number 70. Number 68 never said he was eligible. So he catches the ball because they're not interested in him. He's not eligible. Why would I cover a guy who's not eligible? Oh, but we want to blame the ref, and we don't want to blame the Lions, whose fault it is. 68 or 70 should have went to the ref by himself. You can't fool him because the ref's going to tell you what the player is. So the whole thing was just incredibly stupid. But so you get the penalty. And now you're at the 7, and you're going for it again instead of kicking the extra point and tying the game at 20. Then maybe you win the game. Dak Prescott sucks. So you beat a pretty bad Dallas team because Green Bay, see, here's where I get it. You lose 2019, Green Bay puts up 45 points on them and just killed them. See, that's the difference. Detroit never did that. You lost a game you should have won. Dallas, who wasn't that good, but you still lost to them. So that was it. You played Baltimore and you played Dallas. That was the only 2 decent teams you played, and you lost both of them. Seattle, I don't understand. Well, again, you have no secondary. And guess what? You didn't get rid of your defensive coordinator. You're still going to play this loose zone, and these guys are still going to let you up for 200. You got Jefferson twice. God knows what the Bears are going to do, although I don't like Caleb, but he's going to find somebody there. I don't think he'll win, but I think they'll get yards, and Green Bay might hit 500 on you because the Niners and Dallas couldn't stop them. There's no chance for Detroit. You don't get better with the same defensive coordinator who sucks. If you notice, San Francisco fired their defensive coordinator because he couldn't get pressure on Mahomes. Georgia fired their defensive coordinator for losing to Alabama because he couldn't get pressure on Milrose. He played it soft. That's not how Georgia plays. He's fired. But the Lions give up 30-some a game the last 6-7 games. Now we keep our defensive coordinator with the same defensive philosophy. We're going to play weak zones, and we're going to watch Jefferson catch 20 passes for 400 yards against us. Green Bay's loaded with receivers. They're going to have a field day. And the Bears, as bad as Caleb is, he's got DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, they'll eat him alive. Because the Green Bay game's an over, the Chicago game's an over, Minnesota game's got to be an over. Well, we got to see who their quarterback is. But with Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy won't see the field unless Darnold gets hurt. Terrible draft pick. And same thing with Drake May, terrible draft pick. Your Penix, Nix, and Daniels are your studs. And I'd like to see Stenson Benson get some playing time in this year for the Rams. And Hooker should be starting for the Lions. It's a big mistake. The fuck do you think he did at Tennessee, putting up 50 points against Alabama, and you all rave how good Alabama is, and yet you don't even play him? Was that a fluke? Was that a mirage? Did he really not do it? It's easy how you guys just ignore the Baltimore game, and you ignore Hooker puts 50 up on Alabama, and it's he's not good. He's not any good. But if you look at the Georgia game, you can't, because Georgia, he goes back to pass, and Georgia's got 3 linebackers in his face. So you can't look at the Georgia game because that's not him. He has no chance. But you can look at the Alabama game, putting up 50 points, because we all know Alabama's got the best defense, even though Georgia's defense is 20 times better. Anyway, so I heard that, and I almost drove off the road again, and they're saying, well, what's the fluke? What's the fluke? Maybe they'll go to the Super Bowl this year. No, you had your chance. You're not going to get back to the Super Bowl this year. You're not going to beat the Niners. You're not going to beat the Rams. You're not going to beat Green Bay. We don't know about Dallas and Philly. Prescott's got a hurt ankle. I don't know who the backup, if it's Trey Lance or Cooper Rush. Great defense in Dallas. Terrible coach. Terrible quarterback in Prescott. Philly, they fell apart. Okay, so they got Kellen Moore as their offensive coordinator and Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator. I don't know if Philadelphia is going to – they all know how to get rid of Jalen Hurts. So we're not really sure what we're going to see there. But anyway, it's just interesting how these idiots on the radio kind of ignore all the facts. Yeah, no, they're going to the Super Bowl. You lost 38-3 to Baltimore, right? So how are you, it's like, well, what are you, on drugs? You didn't improve. You might have drafted another Alabama corner, because we all know how good Alabama's defense is. Maybe Georgia's the guys we should have got. And it's just, they're just rookies. You have no idea. They'll be lucky to make the team, more or less. Are they going to start? And how often are they going to? You don't think Chase and Jefferson are going to put moves on these guys? They'll turn them around. I mean, these guys aren't ready for Chase and Jefferson. They're doing, and C.J. Moore and Keenan Allen and Green Bay's guys. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to be doing circles. And that's just in the division. The Rams, they get Puka-Nacua week 1. Yeah, okay. Puka-Nacua over 300 yards. You've got to face reality and be objective. You can't be total blind idiots and go, well, yeah, they're going to the Super Bowl. There's no way they're going to the Super Bowl. First of all, Green Bay will win the division. You got the Rams, they got the Niners, and then I don't know the mess between Dallas and Philly. The Giants suck. Washington sucks. It's really not that good of a league. You got nobody, maybe New Orleans, really. Atlanta will be good if Penix quarterbacks, not with Kirk Cousins. That's the other thing. Kirk Cousins sucks. All of a sudden, you're high in Atlanta because of Kirk Cousins. He had fucking Jefferson at Minnesota. He couldn't do shit. Sorry, boys. He ain't a good quarterback. He wasn't at Michigan State. He wasn't at Washington. He wasn't at Minnesota. Didn't do anything. And now what's he going to do at Atlanta? They'll suck. He's no better than Matt Ryan, and so I don't see him doing anything. Um, so that's kind of what I get. So Detroit, I'm not sure they make the playoffs realistically because the harder schedule. Now they could because Dallas or Philly will win the division, but I'm not sure if so you're going to have 49ers, Rams as the wild card. You're going to have New Orleans. You're going to have Green Bay, and you're going to have Dallas or Philly winning the division. Both suck. So the other wild card, I think there's two. So the other wild card's should go to Detroit. Maybe the Dallas Philly loser. Philly has talent, but Jalen Hurts is really bad. And now you got more crappy coordinators to dick around with. Vic Fazio, he was the Bears coach and he sucked. So Philly's got problems with the coaches. They got talent up the ass, but they got terrible coaches. And the league's weak. I mean, the Bears aren't going to do anything. Is Minnesota with Sam Darnold going to do anything? I don't think so. And certainly not with J.J. McCarthy. Carolina, we know, sucks. Atlanta, if you put Penix out there, they could get the other wild card. And Tampa, New Orleans could get a wild card because they play Atlanta and Carolina twice. So that could be so. The Rams will be a wild card, and then it's maybe New Orleans and Tampa because it's so weak. They win 8 games because they don't play anybody. Green Bay wins, so then it leaves Detroit or Seattle or the Dallas, Philly. They take their turns beating up Green Bay and beating up the Giants in Washington. So that's how I see it. In the AFC, it's a joke. I mean, you got Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland all could be wild cards. You got Kansas City, yeah, and then you got San Diego with Harbaugh, although he wants to play Michigan football and run the ball and play defense. I don't think that. Denver with Bo Nix, I think it's a little early for him. I think by the mid-year he'll get hot, and then we'll see if they can get in the playoffs. And then you got Oakland, who with Gardner Minshew will be okay, but they got a great defense. They'll play a lot of low-scoring games. So the Oakland San Diego games will be like 10-7. And then you've got Cincinnati. Well, again, the Jacksonville, Houston, Indy, Tennessee. None of them should make the playoffs. Somebody's got to. Trevor Lawrence sucks. C.J. Stroud, Richardson, in Tennessee. So Tennessee's got no quarterback, and Indy's got no quarterback. Jacksonville's got no quarterback. C.J. Stroud, yeah, they're all kind of weak. So somebody will win there. So you got the South. The West is Kansas City. The East should be the Jets with Aaron Rodgers, and then Buffalo should get. So the Jets and Buffalo get one wins, one gets the wild card. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Cleveland. Cincinnati should win it with Burrow, and Baltimore should get the wild card, or Pittsburgh could get the wild card, or Cleveland could. It's amazing. So you might have 2 wild cards come out of there. Cincinnati wins, Baltimore and Cleveland, and Baltimore and Pitt. 2 out of 3 get the wild card, which leaves 1 wild card for Buffalo, or maybe San Diego, Denver, or Oakland. Hard to say. And then you get 1 in the South. Just with the 6-9 record, you got to have somebody. 6-11, but they'll win the division. There's always one. The South, both they have all the sucky teams in them. So that's what you have. The best division clearly is the AFC Central. Cincy, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland. You don't have a 500 team there. They're all great, but they got to play each other twice. So they're going to knock each other off. And here you got Indy, Houston, Jacksonville, Tennessee. It's like there's no team out there. Anyway, so that's what I hear. How the hell do they think the Lions? You're going to beat the Rams, the Niners, Green Bay, and then maybe if Dallas or Philly get better, although I don't see it, maybe Philly gets better. And then they're probably better. They're probably better than Tampa. They're pretty even with, and New Orleans probably maybe a little bit better than them. But that's really what they have. It's such a weak division. They might sneak in that last wild card spot, but they're not beating Green Bay. Green Bay is going to light them up because Green Bay figured out their offense, and Love is playing like he did his junior year, and the coach is really good, and he'll eat the Lions alive. He ate the Lions alive. What was it, Thanksgiving? They put up 35 points on them. It wasn't even close. Where was Jared Goff then when Green Bay was lighting him up, or when Chicago was lighting him up? Where's Jared Goff? Where's that wonderful offense? Oh, they weren't playing Atlanta or Carolina, were they? I mean, it's just when you look good against weak teams, it's like baseball. I always say this: when you look good against a team, against a pitcher with a 10 ERA, then everybody, oh, look at he's pitching, and this J.K. Malloy and Ricky Green and all these guys are hitting, against the 10 ERA pitchers. Then they go up against Bianco from Houston and get a no-hitter. I mean, that's my point. Against really good talent, they don't show up. They look good against a terrible pitcher, and everybody raves, oh, look, they're going to the World Series. They beat a 10.3 pitcher. And that's how the Lions are. They beat a bunch of bad teams. They look good beating a bunch of bad teams. Everybody wants to ignore Baltimore and Dallas. They could have kicked the extra point and went to overtime. Who knows? Dak could have just narched them down for a field goal against that defense. I don't remember how much time was left. Explain the Green Bay Chicago game. Well, we don't really count those. So all the losses we don't want to count. We want to say, look, we beat Kansas City. And that's the problem. And then you got a huge break because Dallas and Philly fell apart. So instead of going to Dallas the second week, instead of hosting Tampa, you'd have been one and done. Good win against the Rams. I will give them that. That's the best team they beat. And then that's it. And then you have, they get killed by the Niners. The coach cost them. They'll never see it again. They got lucky. All right. First of all, so here you're going to be a wild card. You got Green Bay to worry about. You got the Niners and the Rams to worry about. And if Dallas or Philly gets better, and then if you have to go to Tampa or New Orleans, if you have to go to Tampa or New Orleans, you're losing that game. So they'll be lucky to get to the playoffs only because the NFC is kind of weak. You don't have that Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, none of those teams. So that is a break. So they should get to the playoffs. They won't win the division. It'll be Green Bay again and again and again, and off you go. And so who are they going to beat? They're not going to win at Green Bay. They're not going to win at the Niners. They're not going to win at the Rams. At Dallas or Philly, well, we know they'll lose to Philly. And then, so their only hope is to try to get a home playoff game, but you won't because there's the wild card. It's the division winner hosts the wild card. So the two division winners and the best wild card host, so they won't be hosting. And we'll see. But again, the coach costs them. There's no way they're getting to the Super Bowl or winning a playoff game. There's no way they're winning the division. There's no way they can beat Green Bay. I mean, unless Love gets hurt and I don't know who their backup is, there's no way they're beating Green Bay. Green Bay has a pretty good defense, and they have a much better coach. So Detroit's really Achilles heel is their defense. They can't stop any of the receivers. Who are they going to stop? Jeffrey. And now Chicago is loaded with receivers, and Minnesota, And Green Bay, who are they going to? And this is their weakness: is the secondary and the defensive coordinator. They're fucked. I mean, maybe Darnell can split with Benny, and then Caleb's so bad. I don't know who the backup is. They're not, they'll probably should beat the Bears twice, but the Bears should light them up with the receivers. Although I don't know, Romo Doozy, I thought was a terrible pick. Good quarterback on Washington with a good coach DeBoer and Penix, but he doesn't have that luxury here. He doesn't have that quarterback that he had and the system that DeBoer were on. He's got Heckle and Jekyll as his offensive coordinator and coach. It's not a pretty sight. And believe me, Caleb will be going to DJ Moore and Keenan Allen exclusively. So that's what you have. Maybe Seattle gets better. Maybe, I don't think Arizona will. Giants suck. Washington, all right, they got Daniels. Are they going to get better? I don't think so. Carolina's terrible. New Orleans could be a little better. Atlanta, again, if they go to Penix, will be better. And Tampa, they're not great. So that's what you have in the NFL. Seattle could be a surprise team, but they don't have Coach Pete anymore, and they still have Geno Smith, so I don't see that. The Rams would be really good because Stafford and Pukanuka and the other guy they're going to give the Niners all they want. They got rid of Aaron Donald and retired, but they drafted 3 or 4 really good defensive players the last year and this year. So look for them to be better. All right, baseball, let's go through it again. We got Philadelphia, Oakland over 8.5, Seattle, Atlanta under 7.5. This is game 2. Baltimore over 8.5, San Diego under 9. The Yankees under 8.5, Texas and Kansas City. Atlanta, I didn't realize was game 2 of the doubleheader, but it's Chris Sale. So I'm betting Chris, and then I'm betting the under because the other guy is pretty decent. Not great, but pretty decent. And Atlanta's not hitting. So we'll take that into account. Okay, what else? Okay, Donald Trump. If you have football questions or comments, let me know. But that's basically NFL. We're not going to go through week 1's line right now. We do have the exhibition game, but we'll talk about it. We'll break down the box score, but what am I going to say? I don't even know if anybody's playing in the game. I can't name the coach of the Bears or Tennessee, to tell you the truth. So that's your baseball. That's your NFL. So Trump and Soros. This Trump assassination attempt, which I'm not even sure it really was an assassination attempt. I know it's a bullet, but my first thought was he hit him in the ear on purpose. Then I watched somebody try to hit somebody in the ear, a dummy from 10 feet away, and he got the ear both times. And then we learned the shooter's not that good of a shooter, so we go, well, he probably isn't. But then we see the shooter fired, 5 shots, missed them all 5 times, and yet Trump said 130 yards is like a 2-foot putt or a 1-foot putt. How the hell does he miss 5 times Trump? And who is selecting this Lee Harvey Oswald guy to do the shooting if you can't hit the broadside of a barn? So I'm going to try to assassinate the president, and I'm going to try to shoot him from long distance instead of what the Russians would do, would be poison him. They put something, they put a stick on his hand or the little Mission Impossible, the ring, hello, and there you go. So why would you shoot the guy? Makes no sense. So the Russians didn't do it. They're not this stupid. But why would you want this assassin to do it if you can't shoot? Why would you have this guy shoot the president if you can't shoot unless you want the build up? It's the magic show. I'm going to show you my left hand. It's the right hand. Yeah, Mayorkas, he doesn't know what day it is. You have the FBI guy, he doesn't know what day it is. They're all paid off by George Soros. The director, the Secret Service director, was a moron. She could guard Pepsi and Fritos. She had no idea. She hadn't been to the site in 9 days. She didn't investigate. She didn't ask questions. They left the building open on purpose. I mean, let's use logic here. I'm not going to get details. I don't need them. I know what I see, and I know how critical of a thinker I am. You left it open on purpose. You told nobody to guard it. It's the only way the guy could get up. When the crowd was noticing, so the police, what are they looking at? So here's ladies in the crowd going, hey, there's a shooter on the roof, and the cops are doing nothing. George Soros. They let him shoot 5 times, and then the sniper takes him out. You see him there. You don't stop the thing. You want Trump to go out, but we're trying to figure out but did he really miss him on purpose or by accident? This is where I'm struggling, because the way I analyze football and the way I analyze baseball, and I'm analyzing this the same way, nothing but George Soros comes out. First of all, you let the guy, it's like football. The guy's wide open. Nobody's covering him. What is that? That's a fix. Or the fumble, the play at the end of the game when they fumble it back to the goal line and the other team stuff, that's a fix. There's not a question. So what you have here is you let this guy, you've seen him, you're supposed to be looking. First of all, where is the Secret Service? There was 1 or 2 guys, Secret Service there, and that was it. And then you have these ladies who are clerks there with guns that they can't holster, they're half the size of the guy. What is that? Well, we don't have enough men. This is the president of the United States. What do you mean you don't have? So get guys away from Joe Biden, who you don't need. So why didn't you have more? I blame Trump for his guy knowing that there wasn't enough guys. Why didn't you get any more guys? I heard RFK Jr. say, I pay for my own Secret Service or security detail. Costs him, like he said, like $1 million a month. And he's got his own D's. Why doesn't Trump do that? He's a billionaire. So Trump goes out there, either his guy is on Soros's payroll, because we needed more men. So what do? We ask this Secret Service, can you give us more men? And they go, no, we can't give it to you. Okay, so if I'm Trump, and my guy says that, he's fired, I go to Putin, I go, give me about 20 of your best KGB agents. I'm not going to take any chances. I'll get the best. The Russians are the best. Take them. You're going to guard me. Do you believe if the Russian security team, if it was Putin, do you think the guy could have got on the roof and taken a shot? Do you think that could have possibly happened? Never in a million years. Never, never, never. If it's Putin, is a little boy going to get on the roof and fire at him? Because the Russians would see that and immediately tackle the guy, probably kill him, and go, okay, Vladimir, you're fine. You can go talk. That's the difference. The Russians are elite, and we are a bunch of fucking Three Stooges. So it makes it look like George Soros, even if it is or isn't. I think it had to be. He gains. He wants Trump gone because he won't listen to him. That's why he fixed the other election. And you wonder why we don't want to vote, because the elections aren't even fair. They're rigged. So Trump's sitting there with 3 or 4 Secret Service agents. They're not checking the grounds. The people were in the building. What do you mean in the building? Why aren't you on the roof? What, are you kidding me? No, we're leaving the roof clear so the guy with the ladder can climb up with his gun and lay down and take a shot at Trump. So we're going to keep our guy in the building. Okay, this is like the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So it's all these guys are on the take. The Secret Service, Mayorkas, this director of the Secret Service was clearly on the take. She wouldn't answer a question because she's too stupid. You're gonna run it. I don't know how to run it. That's perfect. You run it, and we'll kill presidents and stuff. So what you have here is George Soros calling the play, saying, "Okay, let's get this director, and you're not going to be there, and we'll pull the deal. We'll have these two girls who are typists. We'll let them guard Trump. We'll let him go on stage. We'll let a guy 100 yards away should take him out, but he's a terrible shot. Why would you pick this guy? He's a terrible shot unless he's missing on purpose." Which is what I think happened. So that's what it looks like to me. That's drawing the pictures. He hit him in the air on purpose to make it look like I said, a fistful of dollars. You can argue with me. I don't really care. I'm only saying it's a Nazi shot. It's George Soros all the way. If he wanted Trump dead, he wouldn't have shot him. He'd have poisoned him, or he'd have had that James Bond, The Ring, or the Mission Impossible, and Tom Cruise would have shook his hand, and that would have killed him. I mean, why do it like this? Unless you wanted the noise, unless you wanted, this to get rid of this Secret Service director, and it worked. You got rid of her. Mayorkas should be peeing in his pants, and now they're interviewing the FBI director. You're not going to get anything out of him. He's a Soros man. Problem is, you have a bunch of George Soros people working in the U.S. government, and they're working with the Chinese. This is the problem. They don't answer. They should be fired. How do you fire these people? They're all incompetent or in bed with the Chinese and George Soros. So if you clearly ask the guy, well, we're looking into it. The fuck does that mean? Why wasn't there anybody on the roof? And how did the guy get a ladder and a gun into the thing? Nobody stopped him. You had no dogs and you had no drones checking, which is apparently what they do. You had nobody. It's like 9/11. Where were the F-18s? Oh, they were on vacation that day. Yeah, and they took out 2 towers, and all the gold went from the Federal Reserve building. All the gold went. Just coincidence. And by the way, some guy shorted the airplane stocks the day before. He had a hunch. I have a hunch. And that's what happened there. Apparently somebody shorted the Trump stock, the Truth, whatever is Trump's. Somebody put in a big short. Was it Trump? Or was it Bill Gates? Was it somebody who did that on purpose? Obviously, they did it on purpose because they knew they were going to try the assassination attempt. Probably George Soros. Yeah, and it's amazing how stupid the Congress is and the whole government, that you got to look at who did it. Larry Fink, absolutely. He was training this guy. George Soros, who benefits from Trump being out? The Obama, that idiot. I mean, the whole thing is a joke. The whole thing, they focus on the director. That's the magic trick. Here's the director of Secret Service. We're going to focus on her, and here's George Soros, and we're not going to go after him or ask her about George Soros, which she probably wouldn't say, or ask Mayorkas about George Soros, or ask the FBI director about George Soros, because they're not going to answer. They know they'll be killed if they answer, so they're not going to say anything. Why isn't somebody going after George Soros and saying, "Hey, well, prove it was me"? That's because you hired the stupidest shooter in the world. But as they say, no loose ends. So what do? They take out the shooter. After he empties 5-6 shots, okay, you had your chance, but we got to shoot you because you're going to talk. And they don't want him to talk, so they shoot him. Just like Lee Harvey Oswald, they just shoot him. And now there's no loose ends. Maybe the director, well, she'll have an accident soon. If she probably doesn't know anything. Mayorkas knows, Biden knows, Obama knows, but they know but it's George Soros. It's total Nazi. They did it a million times. It's what they do, and that's what he did. So I don't need evidence to see that that's what happened. Was there evidence when the Nazis took over and they burned all the churches and they killed the other leaders? Did you need evidence? I don't think so. Hitler took control, and that was the end of it. Then you had a martial law, and if you didn't heil, they killed you. So that's why you think, why didn't people fight against Hitler? Because if you did, he killed you. And it was all about the gold. He went into all these countries to steal the gold. Because I was watching something on yesterday about the financing of Germany. They were broke, right? They had the hyperinflation and the depression. Where the hell did they get money to fight a war with? Oh, they stole all the gold. And they printed money. What they did was they printed fake money. It was sort of like monopoly money, and it was used to get the economy going and them to make tanks and bullets and guns and everything that they needed, all the machinery. It was fake money, but they used it, and then they said the promise was, well, you can turn this in for the real money, after so much time. And that's what they did. And then he stole all the gold, and we've seen all the mountains of gold that he had in those underground tunnels. And that's what he did. He did a thing where he took fake money and got people working. We got a job for you. Yeah, come on. You're going to be in the military. Come on, boys. So that's it's not even a theory. That's what happened. And, I'm not going to, prove it. Fuck that. You can't prove it. That's why George Soros is still living. But he's behind it all. He says, let's take out Trump, and leaves it to Larry Fink to figure out. And it's always a loner, like Reagan, some loner guy. Oh, I'm in love with Tatum O'Neal, and then go ahead and I'll kill him for Tatum. Yeah, great. Okay, sure you did. And this guy's a loner, and yeah, Dad, can I have the gun and all the ammo? And I'm just going for a walk. Yeah, oh yeah, no problem, Sonny. So the father's not in on it. I'm sure he is, but it was all Larry Fink under Soros. So Soros comes up with the idea, and Fink trains the guy, and now I hear that Trump's going to make Larry Fink the Treasury Secretary and Jamie Dimon the Commerce Secretary. Why don't you have Bernie Madoff do both jobs? Because that's about what you've done. Is if you win and that's going to be your guys, the corruption will be obscene. Forget it. You might as well buy as much gold and silver as you can now, because the gold price, the dollar will go out immediately, and the gold price will go, to the moon. So if that's real, and that's what RFK Jr. said, although I prefer JFK Jr. because it's got a nicer ring to it. All right, let's go to. Let's try to stomach. I probably didn't save it.
So for decades, I suffered with thyroid disease. I had Graves' disease, and my...
All right, this is 9 minutes. The title of this is Andy Scheckman, is Big Banks Are Using Silver for or Against China. He never answers the question or the comment, at least in this 9-minute segment. I tried adding comments. Oh, now I can. I couldn't before. What did he call it? What is the fuck? What do they call? They're the investment banks. All right, here's my comment. What is Andy talking about? It's unclear his point. Silver and gold are paper, not physical, and it's price fixed by the bullion banks and comex. The investment banks are not involved. Plus, the dollar is worthless. Andy needs a class in Austrian economics. I can teach him. Now, that's what I said. Now we'll listen. It's 9 minutes. We can go through most of it. He goes off on tangents. He talks to himself, but he never says anything. So see if I'm deranged, or do you see this also? So let me play this and try to tell me one point the guy says that makes any sense. Like today's Wednesday, it's now 4:55, something, but I can't get any out of it. Remember the title, Big Banks.
Are being drained, in particular in silver, because you can't export gold, and these things are.
What's he talking about?
I just people understand kind of simplistically what's happening. Ever since you and I started talking about that publicly, obviously I get a lot of calls, people concerned, thinking, did I partner up with the wrong company? And there's about a half a dozen companies that I would say are borderline criminal. And I never have mentioned their names out of respect, because it's not my place to do.
Out of respect? So would you not mention Madoff or Jamie Dimon or Larry Fink? You don't mention those guys out of you're respecting Madoff? What the fuck is that? What do you mean out of respect? That's ridiculous.
But I will tell you, there are two common threads in every single statement that I have looked at from all these different companies. Two things. One, gold coins. Don't know why they choose quarter ounce gold coins, but every single one of them do. Quarter ounce gold coins, most of which I've never heard of. Now, I've heard of the mint that makes them, but these goofy quarter ounce coins that supposedly have this great upside market potential, it's just a bunch of malarkey. And the other thing is either 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce, or 2 ounce silver coins that trade at roughly double to triple the market price of silver. Those are the two
What is he talking about? Quarter ounce gold. If it's not thing, then it's fake. I've never seen a 1.5 or 2 ounce silver coin. A 2 ounce silver. If a 1 ounce is $30, a 2 ounce is $60, or 2 1 ounce coins. What is he talking about? I don't see any of these coins. I don't see what the fuck he's talking about.
threads that I see in every single case. And some of them, honestly, are enough to make you physically ill. I mean, you start to just get sick in your stomach when you hear people, you know, I've been a postman my whole life, and I put my whole savings into this, and, you know, I'm 80 years old. What am I going to do? And, you know, it's really awful. And that's right. You should sound the alarm. We should talk about this more often, because it's once we start talking about it, I was blown away by how many people have got wrapped up in this. And the common denominator, aside from what the product is that these companies are very well funded and have the ability to have very impressive ad campaigns and very impressive spokespeople, whom I wonder if they have any idea. I would bet most of them have no idea the way these people do business, because these spokesmen, they're not buying like a customer would. They're getting paid a handsome salary and think they're doing the right thing. And in the last few weeks, I've talked with you 2 weeks ago about how you're seeing these exchange for physical deliveries that are these large deliveries of kilo gold bars in particular, that are being purchased in the West, delivered to Brics, Hong Kong, which is a comex facility, and then being trucked over to the Shanghai Gold Exchange. We've talked a lot about how, you know, the vaults are being drained, and the bankers showing up at the Shanghai Metals Exchange, and now those vaults are being drained, in particular in silver, because you can't export gold, and these things are undeniable. But I just want people to understand kind of simplistically what's happening. So the Chinese vaults are being drained due to the large demand exceeding supply in West. And I think these bullion banks are trapped. I know Alistair McLeod kind of alluded to that in your interview with him that I watched last night, that these banks are trapped. And so the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange sees the physical price of silver go higher, and as much as $3 and $4 higher than the West. And because of this argument.
I'm sorry, what is he talking about? Alistair McLeod. Well, explain what Alistair McLeod said. Now, we've watched them, so I can explain what Alistair McLeod say, but this clown brings up Alistair McLeod, but he doesn't explain it. See, here's the problem. He talks to himself. He says, well, they're draining these vaults. So all he's doing is listening to Alistair or Mark McGuire, and he's repeating. But he doesn't know what he's talking about. He can't explain it. So what's happening is, on COMEX, you need the physical gold and silver to do the put option. You can't do it without the physical. And they don't have any physical. So they're going to China to get it, but you can't get gold out of the warehouse. It won't leave the country, but you can with silver. So they're all going to these are the bullion banks who are getting killed on their derivatives because it keeps going up. And they want physical silver so they can keep doing the trades, because you have to have some physical gold and silver to do these options. Now, did he say that? No. Did he say anything that makes any sense? Sorry. Does he talk a lot? Yes. But he'll say this, but, you know, he doesn't explain it. And this is the problem. We're not getting any explanation.
That's sucking all the metal over there, right? And these traders don't have loyalty to this country in terms of the long-term ramifications. They're making a ton of money. So as this demand keeps flowing there and the price goes higher, you got the brain-dead bullion banks and the COMEX and the LBMA that continue to slam down the price harder.
Have you ever heard of an economy being taxed into prosperity?
Continue to slam down the price harder. And the spread between silver in the West and silver in China is at least 10 to 15% as a result of all of this, or higher. And so these Western vaults are being drained as the traders are monetizing the arbitrage. And so when you see silver in the vaults drop to their lowest since 2020 in Shanghai, that is a very ominous sign, because once those vaults are drained, we already know there's only roughly 300 million ounces of silver on the LBMA, if we believe what they're saying.
Which is about 900 tons.
When we talk about the Shanghai vaults and their inventory in silver dropping to the lowest level since 2020, and a 10 to 15% arbitrage, if you will, for all the importers, you could very much argue that we are seeing, you know, in the spirit of that what's his name, Mad Kitty or whatever it is on what's his name, the guy that tried to tried to squeeze AMC and GameStop. A great movie, by the way, Dumb Money. What's his name, the Mad Kitty or whatever it is. You know, the whole idea of squeezing the silver market, and as Jeffrey Curry said, you know, he said that the public can't squeeze the silver market because the public buys the ETFs, and the ETFs are the shorts. Talk about a faux pas, because when
the public doesn't buy ETFs, the pension funds do. Amazing. So what is he saying? Where is this going? Right? You can see why I'm confused. Oh, is the public buying ETF? No, the public should be buying physical. That's what we try to teach them. So he's rumbling on with this Hello Kitty crap. Well, what's his point? Does anybody understand his point?
ETF shorts metal, that's illegal. The ETF is not supposed to hedge anything. They are a custodian for people making speculations in the metals market. There would be no need to hedge. Talk about a faux pas. But in any case, when we see the vaults in Shanghai draining to their lowest level and really falling almost to the day that these bullion bankers showed up at the Shanghai Metals Exchange in March, and straight down since then because of the 300 million ounces, if we believe those numbers, at the LBMA, and roughly 60 million ounces in registered at the COMEX, with these deliveries continuing to happen over and over and over again, they're very close to running out of silver. I think they've lost control. They went to China and asked. And look, the normal settlement at the COMEX and the LBMA, which is they're called spot contracts, which are basically promises to deliver, are being replaced now with the scramble for physical delivery. And this is a bad thing. This is a very scary thing if you are a bullion bank who is short. And these bullion banks have rehypothecated silver, I don't know, 100 times if you or more on the LBMA. They were supposed to believe it's only 16 or 17 times on COMEX. I have a hard time believing that, but whatever. Rehypothecated is rehypothecated. It is sold over and over and over and over again, where they didn't think that people would stand for delivery. When these exchanges were founded, they didn't. But India, the Reserve Bank of India, just purchased 24 tons of gold in the first 4 months of 2024. That's 1.5 times what they bought all of 2023. And they bought more silver in the first quarter of 2024 than all of 2023, which was
But he doesn't explain why they bought the silver. They bought the silver for the solar panels and the electric cars, as is Saudi Arabia. That's why the silver demand's up, is for, those two things, the cars and the solar panels.
Record year of, over 400 million ounces. Do the math. I mean, we're running out. And the BRICS, they are draining the Western vaults in the United States and in London. And I think that the West has lost control of the markets. I mean, it was down again today. All the technical guys are saying it was going to fall. And then what is it up now? Gold's up 1550. They can't hold it down any longer. And I think the banks are trapped. And I think these banks have a big problem. I do. And, it's one of these deals where it's just like Bernie Madoff. He had a good thing going until people said they needed their money back and tried to redeem their money. To actually think there could be a force majeure or a short squeeze was something I had a real hard time coming to grips with until recently. And it just seems as though the BRICS, the Chinese, Russians, Saudis, these countries realize that that's how you win the war. It's not by firing missiles, but it's by beating us at a game just like this. And when you realize the biggest banks in the world, especially in the West, are the ones behind the suppression of silver and gold, these countries before didn't have the ability, the sophistication, the wealth, or even the interest of doing this until now. And they do. And this is something that people need to, I think, keep a very close eye on for sure. Because I have a feeling that it's only going to accelerate as we get closer to the election.
So now I'll read my comments. What is Andy talking about? It's unclear his points. Did we get any points in there? Silver and gold are paper, not physical, and it's price fixed by the bullion banks and comex. The investment banks are not involved. That must have been another one I read about the investment banks. Plus the dollar is worthless and he needs Austrian economics class. So what did he say? Big banks are using silver for or against China. Did he?
At Mint Mobile, we like to do the.
Did he answer that? I don't think so. I don't think he answered the question of. I don't think he answered the question of his whole statement. So basically, yes, but he doesn't explain it. In order to do the options, you need physical gold. And we don't have any left, and physical silver. We don't have any. There's none in the bullion. There's none in comex. So we have to go to China, who has all the physical. And we're buying all the physical gold. So the physical gold is running out. Well, all the central banks have it. Like I said, Saudi Arabia, China, and India need the physical gold and the physical silver for the solar panels and the electric cars. It's going to be like Luke's brother. He's going to be selling the tickets secondhand. So the initial tickets he buys, and then if somebody wants to go to the Michigan-Ohio State game, then they can't get the ticket because it's gone. They got to go to the broker, and he sells it for 10 times the price. That's what's going on here. So once they can't get the gold or silver to do the options, they got to go into the market and pay a lot more for it, which is what's happening. That's what we get frustrated with. Why is the price not going up? But that's the big part of it. Anyway, I hate when this guy never explains anything. Now I was looking at this one, right? This is China, CCCP fall coming. It's all about the mortgage. You don't need to watch it. I'll explain it. As we know, Evergrande blew up the market. In China, people don't play stocks because they don't trust the government. So they put their money in the real estate and they buy 3 or 4 houses, one to live in and the other 2 or 3 as investments, like a stock. Oh, my house will go up. That's my wealth. The problem is Evergrande fucked everybody. Evergrande's a construction company. And they built the apartment. They didn't build the apartments. They just took the money. So nobody has a finished apartment or house to live in. They kept buying it because the prices kept going up. Excuse me. Because the prices kept going up, they kept starting new homes but never finishing them. And eventually, they couldn't pay their debt, so they're in trouble, and China's housing market crashed because you thought you owned a house. Could you imagine you buy a house and you think you own it? Here's the money, and then you go in and it's empty, and the guy building it is bankrupt because he has debt because he kept borrowing money to build these things, or he took your money to buy this other thing, to buy another house and build it instead of taking the money to actually build your house. So if I give you money to build a house, you're supposed to build my house. That's what I did when I got my house built. We paid the guy like $75,000 or $50,000, whatever. It was $350. So we paid him like 3 chunks. And a little at a time, but you could see the house going up, which was fine. But in China, you paid him the money and the house wasn't going up. He's using it to then buy another plot and another land, and build another house. And I don't know. Let's watch it.
Do not buy new windows if you live in Michigan. Americans living in zip codes starting with 48 and 49 are
China's real estate market is crashing, and it's bringing the whole economy with it. Property prices have been falling for the last 12 months in a row, and last month was the highest decline in over a decade. The CCP is scrambling, trying anything
China.
and everything to stop the free fall. Only time will tell if it's too little too late. Many experts believe that China may be heading for the same fate that Japan faced in the 1990s when its real estate bubble popped. Things got so bad in Japan after the bubble that the economy never recovered for 20 years. A situation like Japan's lost decades is something the CCP cannot afford. So today, let's go over how the CCP got here, what it's doing to help the citizens, and most importantly, are any of the new policies working? Let's start from the beginning. We already have a video on it, but here's a quick recap on how the CCP created this problem in the first place. You see, here in Uncle Sam's America, it's considered an important part of the American
Uncle
dream.
George's
to own a
America.
home. But slowly it's getting less popular among newer generations to do so because of, well, affordability issues. China, on the other hand, they're different. The importance of owning a house has only gone up in the past couple of decades. Real estate is one of the asset classes that the public trusts more than anything. And real estate ownership has a very important cultural significance for the Chinese people. Families use real estate as a way to plan for their retirement. Guys with real estate are considered attractive choices for marriage. And the amount of real estate you own is directly related to your social status in society. Considering all of this, you can see why real estate prices have continued rising over there. There's a high demand for real estate because of all of these factors. And coupled with incredible price rises in the past, you can see why everyone wants to buy houses. It kind of reminds me of the 2008 US housing market, where everyone wants to buy real estate because real estate prices only go up. The rush to buy houses was so huge that the developers were selling out complexes before even breaking ground for construction. However, even after construction finished, apartments just sat there empty because they had owners but no habitants. Demand was so high because everyone wants to buy their second or third home to get rich on the real estate boom. So supply increased drastically to match the demand, but a lot of these homes were just sitting empty, as owners were only buying these places in hopes of price appreciation. Because other assets.
Okay, so that's exactly what's happening in Canada. Instead of putting your money in the gold, which is the smartest thing, they don't understand it or they don't know, and they buy houses. They buy 3-4 houses, and they're just sitting there. And that's what's going on in Canada. That these people, as an investment, are buying 3 and 4 houses, and they sit empty, and they want to get. In other words, if they pay $700,000, like our friend, well, he's saying, well, wait, I want, $3,000 a month for rent, just so you can cover my rent. And I can't afford that. So he's sitting there, he bought the house, but he can't rent it out. So so why not lower your rent? Well, because I paid, I got a mortgage for $700,000. But you got to you got to meet the market. These people are too stupid to do that. So that's why Canada's crashing, Japan crashed, China's crashing.
Sectors weren't as accessible and.
But houses are not gold. Houses, you cannot buy 3 or 4 and hope they go up. They're not stocks. They're not Mantle cars and they're not Rolex. If you want to do that, go buy a fucking Rolex or go buy a Mantle card or a Brady card. Don't do it. Houses don't go up, especially with inflation. The value of the dollar drops. When the dollar goes out, the house is going to zero. Now what are you going to do? And this answers Luke's question. Yeah, 2 ounces of gold. If you have 4 houses, I got 2-3 ounces of gold and gold's through the roof. Yeah, you'll take the gold because your house is worth zero because the dollar went out. And this is the biggest thing that I see is nobody gets that point. Nobody understands the dollar's going to zero. They all just think it's business as usual. Oh, the dollar can't go out. It's the reserve currency. Big fucking deal. It's the petrodollar. Well, it's not the petrodollar anymore. So all those dollars are coming back. When China doesn't renew the debt of the treasuries and sells them, because we don't want the treasuries, guess what? They get what happens is the U.S. pays them for the treasuries, but they don't want U.S. dollars, so they send it back here and they convert it to gold. That's how China's buying gold is selling the treasuries. So again, the dollar comes back again. That's inflationary. So how are houses an investment? It's you live in it, but they don't just go up. They go up kind of because of the inflation. However, if you make because the dollar's worth less, right? So it's like the Pepsi at a dime goes to $2.50. Well, the house at 25,000 goes up because the dollar's worth less. So it really didn't go up in value, just the dollar buys less. But when the dollar goes out, they're worthless. Apparently, nobody can understand that. Simple, but it happened in Rome, France, Spain, the Netherlands, and in England, where they were the reserve currency. They had their money backed by gold, and they went out. Or Germany, 1923, Zimbabwe, Venezuela. But that's not real, right? That's not the U.S. Oh, okay. Unbelievable.
Developed, real estate was the only thing people invested in. Based on one data set, Chinese families had around 70% of their wealth in real estate. Yeah, you heard that right. 70%. Not much for diversification, I suppose. 30% of China's GDP depended on real estate. Imagine if something were to happen. Something were to happen to the real estate market.
Evergrande faced liquidity issues as it struggled to meet its debt obligations.
Evergrande is also the world's most indebted developer.
Recently, there has been too much bad news surrounding this name.
The firm has more than 300 billion in liabilities, and it may actually be on the hook for more debt.
Many developers, like Evergrande, took advantage of this boom in China's real estate market and became one of the largest developers in the country. At one point in 2018, they were actually the biggest real estate company in Asia. When people look at something that big, they just assume it's all legitimate. Oftentimes, though, that's just not the case. Hope you guys learned that lesson after the 2008 crisis. If one had just looked under the hood, they would have realized that some of the practices happening at Evergrande were far from appropriate. Now, due to the sheer scale of the company, a lot of practices were quite complicated. But here's my attempt to simplify it. Remember earlier how I mentioned that FOMO into real estate was so bad that people were buying houses before the construction even began? Usually a company like Evergrande would lease a piece of land from the local government. They would then turn around and sell the houses that are supposed to be built there and receive full payment for the houses before even breaking ground. Companies would never have any issue selling out as the demand for real estate was just so high. People were more than happy to take out mortgages and buy houses just in hopes of owning real estate someday in the future. Now, the big problem that starts here is that companies like Evergrande wouldn't usually use the money from the sale to start construction. No, they would use that money as down payments to buy even more land, so they can sell even more apartments for the future. Now, this is already a huge problem. This should not have been allowed in the first place. Any unbiased person can look at the system and figure out that this is not going to last. This is exactly the job of the CCP, to regulate the market. But they had passed on this responsibility to the local governments. This is where another problem lies. local governments were directly benefiting from these real estate pyramid schemes that companies like Evergrande had going on. You see, in China, one of the big ways local governments make money is by leasing land to developers like Evergrande. This meant that the more risk these property developers took on, the higher the bids on the land that the government was leasing out. Around 50% of local government's revenue was coming from leasing out land. The same government that should be protecting its citizens from these risky practices is benefiting heavily from these so-called risky practices. This is a prime example of perverse incentives. We don't even need to get into the corruption that goes on around these land leases. This is one of the main reasons why China's real estate bubble has gotten so big. Regulators were always slow to step in because it was directly benefiting them. The CCP saw where things were heading and tried to get things under control by implementing the 3 red line policies for property developers. But it caused more problems than it solved. You see, the goal of the red lines was to stop the developers from taking on too many loans and becoming over-leveraged. Which sounds like a good idea, until you think about the fact that these developers need the loans to finish the construction projects they had started. Remember how they would pre-sale homes and use the money to buy more land? That meant that loan money was actually being used for construction for apartments and houses that people had paid for already. When the 3 red lines came in, banks became more strict, and that meant developers couldn't get the funds to finish projects. This started the domino effect that is still playing out to this day. Projects were paused, debt payments were missed, and citizens got angry. Once the news hit the global media, people started looking closer at China's real estate bubble. Everyone realized that it was a time bomb, and the CCP's 3 red lines had started the timer. Things were about to get much worse. People found empty, unfinished houses, malls, and cities. That's right, a developer named Greenland actually started building a city full of French mansions in hopes of staying ahead of the growing demands of Chinese buyers. Not one mansion, but a city full of mansions. The Wall Street Journal has a full video on this, and I highly recommend you guys check that out after this video. As funds dried up, the city is now left abandoned and unfinished. Some of these homes people actually prepaid for. This problem is not unique to just the city. Currently, there are over 20 million pre-sold homes in China that are unfinished. Now, we usually cover nations on this channel, where figures are in billions and trillions. So in comparison, 20 million doesn't even sound like a lot until you pause and see that these are homes we're talking about. Even if we assume an average price of $50,000, that's almost $1 trillion in unfinished homes that people have bought. Some people are still being forced to pay their mortgage on these loans, even though they see no hope for their home ever being finished. Even for the world's second biggest economy, that's a lot of money. And that's why we see protest videos like these.
So the moral of the story is don't pay until it's finished. That's like paying for somebody to paint your house. You pay him all and then he doesn't show up, or mow your lawn and you pay him in advance and he doesn't mow your lawn. What the fuck are you doing? You pay after services are rendered, not before. That forces the guy to finish what he's doing, and then you get services rendered. So really, that's the whole key to it. So they paid for the house, take out a mortgage, paying their mortgage, but they don't have a house. Why would you do that until you had the house? I'm not taking out a mortgage until I'm done. Like when I bought my house, $350,000. Well, I gave them the last $175,000 when the house was complete and inspected. Then we went to the bank to get the mortgage as the house was collateral. So I don't even understand what the fuck they're doing there. Why would they give out a mortgage if the house isn't done? What are they doing? You know, why is somebody paying for the house before it's done? These are idiots in China. I thought they were stupid here, but
are desperate. Some have taken to street demonstrations.
Evergrande's collapse triggered protests by homeowners, furious that units they had started paying mortgages for weren't being finished.
Well, why pay the fucking mortgage?
Have been left in dire straits, and all signs indicate things will only get worse.
Now, in China, people don't often protest because they know the consequences can be drastic. I'm sure you've heard of the Tiananmen Square massacre, where nothing at all happened.
Call your doorbell camera company and cancel the subscription. This brand new subscription-free mini Wi-Fi.
Heard of the Tiananmen Square massacre, where nothing at all happened in 1989, if you ask the CCP. But when people and families went out on the street to protest the housing situation, even the CCP realized this was a big issue. So they tried saving the free fall of the real estate market. The Beijing government rolled out a bailout package that decreased the interest rates on mortgages and reduced the down payment requirements. The hope was that this would make it easier to get loans and buy new houses. If people started buying houses, then developers will get the funds to finish the projects they had paused. Sounds like a good plan, until, you think about it a little deeper. You know how we talked earlier that people in China were not really buying houses to live in? No. They buy them as investments, in hope that prices will continue going up and their wealth will continue rising. 30% of home sales were just people buying a second house, and 10% of home sales were people buying a third house or more. But they had no reason to believe that prices would fall. In fact, for most people, their entire lives, real estate prices only went up. Now, though, things were different. After the 3 red line policy, the music stopped, and real estate prices had started falling.
This is why you ask the question, why? So in Madoff, you would say, how are you doing it, Bernie? Well, if you got to ask me, I can't tell you. Okay, go fuck off then. You're obviously scamming and it's a Ponzi scheme, so I'm out of it. Because in reality, you can't make 15, 20% when the market's 5. So same thing here. Well, the whole life, the houses went up. Well, why? Why did the houses go up your whole life? That's the question you need to ask to understand what's going on and see if anything's changed. This is why we can't use trends on New England. Brady ain't there anymore. We can't use Seattle because Russell Wilson's there. We can't use Pittsburgh because now Russell Wilson's there. We can't use Denver because now they got Bo Nix and Sean Payton. So if the variables change, it all comes back to variables. If they change, you can't keep using the same assumption. Gold and silver in 2008, I don't care. The variables have changed. Now they're tier 1. Now it's COMEX blowing up. And so therefore, I don't want to look at what happened in 2008 for gold and silver. It's totally different now. We've got brics buying gold through the roof, coming out with gold back. That wasn't there in 2008. The variables changed. That's how you got to understand it, and then you can go on. You can't just assume, well, if it went up in 2008, it'll go up now. Well, then you wonder why everybody's losing all their money. Because they're fucking idiots. They don't know what they're doing, and they just assume if it, well, this guy's been in Madoff for 10 years, he keeps getting paid, so I'll go in and I'll get paid until everybody wants their money, which is like COMEX now. Everybody wants the gold and the physical, and everybody's taking delivery on it. So COMEX is blowing up. So anyway.
Even with relaxed mortgage rules, why would anyone want to buy houses as investments after what just happened? Human psychology also only compounded the problem here. As you might already know, we as humans are more afraid of a $100 loss than we are excited about a $100 profit. That's loss aversion for you. This means that even people who can afford to buy real estate don't want to buy because they are more afraid to lose money. Before, real estate was the most reliable investment vehicle in China, and now people see it as the least reliable investment vehicle. So only people buying houses right now are the ones who need a house to live in.
That's why they're all buying gold in their savings account. Because at the end of the day, well, we can't buy stocks. We tried buying houses and we all got fucked. Hey, gold, we can't get fucked. Gold's gold. Nothing can happen to it. That's why everybody's buying gold. It's all related to this housing market.
And can afford it. But that's not really a lot of people. Here, we learn why it's so dangerous to be too dependent on one sector. Remember how I said earlier, real estate is the single biggest contributing factor to China's GDP?
Now it's gold.
Well, about that. The economy is great when real estate is great. But now that the real estate market is crashing, the economy as a whole is feeling that pressure too. As people see their real estate portfolio crash and burn, they feel poorer. So they spend less money on discretionary stuff like eating out, shopping, celebrating Xi Jinping's birthday. I'm just kidding about that last one, but hopefully you get the point. Now, in any economy, one man's spending is another man's income. And if people stop spending, that means businesses earn less. So now they have to lay off employees, which in turn makes people now spend less, which in turn hurts more business profits. It's like a dangerous downward spiral that's very hard to stop, even for an authoritative government like the CCP. It wasn't just becoming a real estate crash that was hurting China's economy. It was also deflation. You see, unlike the West, which turned on the money printer to deal with the COVID recession, China went a different route. The real estate market bubble was already popping. The CCP didn't want to print money and fuel that bubble. This led to deflation, which is, as the name implies, the opposite of inflation. Prices are going down instead of going up, which...
What does prices have to do with inflation? You printed money, that's inflation. There's no such thing as deflation. The market, the values going down are the values going down. That's the market. Deflation is not the inverse of inflation because inflation is not prices going up. That's the effect of printing too much dollars, which is the inflation. And then the value of the dollar drops. So in deflation, does the value of the dollar go up? How the fuck can it? You printed $20 trillion. How the fuck does the value of the dollar go up in deflation? Doesn't work that way. Prices might go down. That's got nothing to do with printing the money that caused the inflation, that caused the devaluation of the dollar, which made prices go up because you needed more dollars. And if the prices are going down, the market's not accepting the price increase. Doesn't mean it's the inflation hasn't gone anywhere. They're apples and oranges. Inflation is money printing. Deflation are prices going down. They have nothing to do with each other.
Which may sound like a good thing to you and me, but for an economy, it's a bad thing. Once everyone is thinking that prices tomorrow will be cheaper than today, then no one wants to spend money to buy stuff because they believe tomorrow they can get it for cheaper. So again, businesses make less profit, they lay off more people, and spending goes down even more because more people are unemployed. This is a bit similar to what happened in Japan in the 1990s, when its real estate bubble popped. Many economists believe China may be heading in the same direction. And if the CCP doesn't fix the problem, things are going to get ugly quickly. But before we talk about that, let's quickly go over one last policy the CCP just...
So for decades, I suffered with thyroid disease. I had
Jesus
Graves'
Christ.
disease, and my...
Every 2 minutes,
let's quickly
3
go
minutes,
over one last
commercials?
policy the CCP just implemented to revive the real estate market. That's giving money to banks and local governments. Earlier this year, the CCP launched Project Whitelist that allows city governments to recommend residential projects to banks as being suitable for financial support. Basically, the CCP is telling banks that they can loan money to some developers so that they can finish paused projects. The project comes at a time when developers do not have the money to repay banks, and so existing loans need to be replaced with new loans or just extended. This is also putting pressure on Chinese banks that were already struggling because of the real estate crash. If banks get too much bad debt on their balance sheet, people may start losing trust in the bank's ability to stay solvent, and that's a huge problem in itself. I'm sure most of you already know how the modern banking system works, but here's a quick overview for everyone else. Banks usually loan the money that depositors deposit and hope to earn interest on it to make a profit. Usually the reserve requirements is set by the central banks. So let's say it's 10%. This means that whenever the banks get $100 in deposits, they're required to only keep $10 in the vault, but they can loan out $90 and charge interest on it. This is just a simplified example, but these types of transactions happen millions of times over in an economy, and that's basically how the modern banking system works. For every $100 in deposits, banks are able to create $1,000 of money in circulation. Now, this system is actually pretty great. In the past century, a lot of economic growth is in part thanks to this fractional reserve banking. But the only way that...
But that's where all the inflation comes from. Because they don't have the money. They're creating the money out of thin air. That's the inflation. It's caused by the banks, not what the government prints. I don't know what happens to that money. I think it just, that's where the debt is because we owe these countries. all the people that are buying the bonds, we got to pay it back. That's why we're fucked.
Works is if the depositors have trust in the bank's ability to keep their money safe. Now, if too many of these loans that banks are giving out become worthless, then that trust starts to fade. This is why the US enacted strict lending regulations after the 2008 crisis. So banks are careful with whom they lend to. Now, even with the CCP's new policy, banks are being careful as to which developers to extend the loans to, because they know that these are highly risky loans. This, in turn, is hurting the economy as paused projects means no more new real estate sales. This is where the big headaches lie for the CCP. The Chinese economy is heavily reliant on its financial sector and the real estate sector. Real estate represents around 30% of China's GDP, like I said, while 7 out of 10 of the top companies in China are financial institutions. The crash is spreading across the Chinese economy at a rate never seen before in the world. For comparison, when the US had its crash in 2008, real estate was only around 6% of the total GDP, and in the 90s in Japan, real estate was only around 9% of total GDP. So for China, any hit to real estate means a much bigger impact on the economy, even bigger than Japan's 1990s crash. Talking about Japan, when its real estate bubble popped, it led to a 20-year-long stagnation in the economy. Economists believe China can face a similar fate if things aren't handled carefully. Now, Japan's crisis was complex, and it deserves a video in itself, but here's a simplified overview so that we can talk about the similarities with China's current crisis. Much like China in the early 2000s, Japan's real estate market was booming before the 1990 crash. In fact, at one point, the land value of Tokyo was the same as the land value of the whole of the United States. There were multiple reasons behind why real estate prices soared so much, but the big one was the fact that their interest rates were near zero in the previous decade, which led to investors plowing money in real estate for higher returns. But when this bubble got too big, the central bank was forced to raise rates, which led to one of the most disastrous crashes in the Japanese economy. People were left paying mortgages on properties that were now worth less than the loan they had, which led to belt tightening across the country and spending decline, just like it's happening in China. The downward spiral of deflation was so bad that it took Japan 2 decades to get things back to new highs in the stock market. GDP per capita is still around the same $40,000 that it was in the 1990s. To many, it seems like China may be heading in the same way. In fact, things may be worse for the CCP. Japan was less dependent on real estate than China is today. That means a crash in the Chinese market could have disastrous effects. But the CCP does have the benefit of knowing what happened to Japan in the 1990s, and hopefully lessons from the past can help the communist government manage this crisis. Because if the CCP fails, billions of people will suffer.
Of course, they're going to fail. They're communists. They're setting the market. So that was the China one. Let's see. So with the CIA, the Secret Service director resigned. She was useless anyway. I showed you the thing on socialism. Anyway. That's pretty much what's it. Let's see. So baseball once again. Philadelphia, and that game's over. Let's see what's going on now. Holy shit. Did I play Colorado? Colorado's up 20-3 in the top of the 8th. Jesus Christ. Or at least I didn't play Boston today. Houston 8-1 over Oakland. I have Oakland over 8.5. That's a winner. Seattle 1-0 against California. I have Seattle under, or I just have Seattle. They're winning 1-0. What did Philly do? Pitt won 5-0. Minnesota won 5-4. Milwaukee 3-2 against the Cubs, and I had the Cubs under. Or Milwaukee, where did I have it? They've been playing a lot of low-scoring games, the Cubbies. Anyway, so Philly lost 5-4. Oakland's over. Seattle's good. Atlanta's coming up. Atlanta is at where is Atlanta? This is weird. I thought there was a double header with Chris Sale. I'm not seeing it. Where did it go? It's crazy. Anyway, so keep an eye. Colorado 20-3 over Boston going forward. So coming up is Baltimore over 8.5 against Miami at 6:40 an hour. San Diego, Washington. I got San Diego under 9. New York against New York. I took New York under 8.5. Tampa and Toronto. I didn't play. Arizona, KC. I took KC. 49ers and the Rams. I didn't play it. Robbie Ray, 0-0 with the 0-0-0, my favorite. So Mini beats Philly. So, yeah, that's probably another over. That's where I think that's the thing with Philly. And Minnesota can hit too. Milwaukee, Chicago's been under all the time. So that's a good one. Anyway, and what's going on now? So Colorado 23, Houston over, and Seattle under. And we've got Houston over. So this time Houston got the 8 runs against. So here Oakland didn't hit. One of them hit. Lousy pitchers. We go over 8.5. Another winner. So that's what we've got. And you just got to play the 6. So Pitt loses with their ace yesterday and wins today 5-0. So again, more confusion. Let's look at gold one last time. And it's $23.98. So gold went down. But what'll happen is it'll go right back up. See, again, this is bullshit derivatives. This is not the market. This is government controlling the price, not the free market. To put it very simple terms. So the free market, well, they went up to $24.32. How does it go down $34? There's no reason. How does it go up? Right, from $24.15 to 20. How does it go up $17 and then goes down, $35? That's not logical. It doesn't make sense. There's no reason for it to go up or down except for the derivatives, and they're making money. So it got it up. So they raised it to $24.32 so they could short it, and now they're getting out at $23.98. Must be the strike price. So that's why this is all bullshit, which we understand. And off we go with it. So now it's a lot easier to understand when it's easier to understand what's going on with the prices when now we understand why. Right. So if you got to dig in and go, why did it go up? Why did it go down? And if you don't know, that's the problem. Oh, it's profit taking. No, it isn't. It's consolidation. No, it isn't. It's derivatives. They're price fixing. The government wants the price, not the market. Because in a free market, this thing would be at $15,000 by now. So then you say, well, when are we getting the free market? And that's what our friends and BRICS are going to do for us. They'll keep the demand up. They're bankrupting BRICS because they need the physical. And that's what they're saying. I went to China. There is no physical left, and they can't get it out of the country. They can't do it for these derivatives, yet they keep doing it. Yes, it's a fixed game, which we understand it. But what we're betting on is BRICS. They're going to need a higher gold price to give the gold back currency to everybody, and that's what it is. So they're printing it to death. So it doesn't matter if it's the reserve currency or not. It really has no bearing on it. If you print the money, if you print the money to zero, you print the money to zero. Oh, well, it's the reserve currency. Yeah, but but you printed it to zero. So I told that guy at the gym about the Roman, have you heard about the Roman Empire collapsing because of inflation? I'm sure there you would have not believed it and said, oh, no, we can't collapse. We're Rome. Okay, how did that work out? So just follow the gold and the silver. You can see China's fucked, right? Their economy's fucked. So what are they doing? All their people are into gold, right? They got these gold savings accounts. And they all, that's where the money is going to be. And so therefore we see China is going broke with their fake housing Madoffs. And they don't trust their stock market. That leaves them gold, and that's it. And you can't buy Bitcoin there. So it's gold or nothing. Now I've got a sneaky feeling that the government will have everybody buy the gold and then take it from them. And they're communists. They can do that. So I don't know. Hopefully not. Hopefully the people actually get to keep the gold to make up for the housing crisis that they have there. I hate that word crisis. It's not a crisis. It's a fuck up. Just like Trump. It's not a crisis. He almost got killed. It's a fuck up. Anyway, so I think that's it. So George Soros definitely behind it. It makes sense. You've got to ask that question. All right, why weren't the Secret Service there? Who would have kept them away? George Soros. Larry Fink works for George Soros, as does Jamie Dimon and the rest of these banks. They work for George Soros and all these liberals in the government, Nancy Pelosi and Biden and all. Biden got what, 20 million from China? Oh, hello, where do you think that's? Who do you think is paying him? So what do you think he's doing for that 20 million? He's selling us out. So anyway, if Kamala Harris gets 5 votes, it's like you've got to be. It's her family. She's retarded. She has no business being in government and as a president. So it looks like Trump's going to win. But they were showing his, and he's for higher tariffs, which we know what happened in 1929 with higher tariffs. He's for lower taxes. Okay. I don't see gold standard there. He wants to devalue the currency. Oh, fella, you can't devalue it any more than it is. It's worth, in my mind, it's worth 0, but okay, let's say it's worth 1 cent, 98, 99% gone. You're going to devalue it more? What do you got your head up your ass, Trump? What do you mean you're going to devalue it more? So this is a guy that has no idea what he's talking about or doing. This is why it's scary. Well, you can't have Kamala Harris. There's a libertarian who would save us, but he's not going to get votes. But that's the point. He's going to devalue the dollar. Do you understand that's inflation? printing the money devalues it. And how much longer do you think it can be devalued, Trump? So Trump's actually our savior. We'll see gold at 20,000 when Trump gets finished, because he's going to devalue it. The only way you can devalue it is to print it. That's what it is. You print too much, it devalues it. And then sometimes prices go up if they can. If they can't go up, they don't. So what do you do? What do you think you're doing there? Devaluing the dollar. Yeah, this is a sound. See, this is, and he's in business, right? So you're really scratching your head. I want to devalue the dollar. Oh my God. Because the trade's out there. Well, the trade's out there because nobody wants it, because you keep harassing everybody. Who are you trading with? And you know, what are we making? China makes everything, and now India is going to make it. We have we don't have anything here. You won't allow anybody to go to business. So it's really pathetic there. Anyway, so I got applied to DTE Energy yesterday, my 4th job that I'm applied for. I didn't like, she said, what do you want to make? You know, what's your salary range? And I'm like, market. Always answer market. Force her to say, well, this is what we're paying. Now, that's where I did. And so she's at the range I was trying to make anyway. So it's okay. DTE Energy's it's a utility company, so that'd be fine. Although I don't know. I got an interview, and I already interviewed with them once and didn't get it. Waiting on GM and Hurley, who are never hiring. And this other company, I had 4 fucking interviews with them, and they're still dicking around. So I don't get it. Waiting on the trust. We got football coming up. So we will see. But that's where we're at. 23.98 on gold. It's 24.09, and then it did its little $10 derivative. But we're not seeing it going under, and we got to 24.32 today. So on one hand, we got to be happy it's 24. On the other hand, we want it to get to 25, but we see it not going. Then I was looking at this guy, Yankee Doodle Dandy, who is clueless. And, you know, he thinks the price will go to 2,500. It'll be there in 2 weeks. It'll be 2,500 on its way to 3,000. And nobody understands brics but us. They want gold-backed currency. It's got to be much higher. And they're coming out in October. Again, Mark McGuire's saying that. Now, is he accurate? Well, we'd like to think so. But a lot of people say stuff, then you think they're going to happen, and then you don't, and they're wrong. So, but I do think brics comes out with gold back because of the problem in China and the problem in Russia with their economics. They need gold. They have gold, and they need a higher price. But anyway, the U.S. is all done. I mean, it's all Wall Street banks. It's all the banks running everything, just like the Trump assassination attempt. It was just bullshit, fixed. I mean, that's all it was. I mean, it had to be fixed because the guy misses him, and then he's going off the stage, and he takes the time to raise his hand. Wouldn't you be a little bit upset? Like, let me get the fuck out of here. No, wait, let me raise my hand, and maybe I can get shot in my arm. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Anyway, I think that's it. Pro football, so we got the Bears. Let's see what the line is on that, like it matters. I say August 1st, so that's a week from today. It's a weird day. Is there a 31st? Yeah, August 1st is next Thursday. So next Thursday, or no, it's, yeah, next Thursday is the, I guess the Hall of Fame game. It's a weird start on the well, next Thursday. You'd think they'd start it on a Saturday. So we've got the Bears laying 1.5 and 2, and Houston, and the over/under is 32.5. Now, what you don't know and how can you bet it is Caleb playing? Is Levis playing? Or is CJ Stroud playing? They should. It's probably going to be a lot of bullshit. That's why the under's 32. You'd be tempted to take. See, you don't know if CJ Stroud should be playing the first quarter, but he probably won't. Caleb needs to play at least 3/4 of this game, but of course he won't because we don't want him to get hurt. We don't want him to have any practice with the first team against another team. He might get hurt. Put a fucking tennis racket in his hand and tell him to go fuck off. I mean, if that, so what, game one, week one, he's just going to just know how to do it? After we saw what he did against Notre Dame and UCLA, he's just going to know how to do it against Tennessee? Yeah, okay. Anyway, so that's what we got. September 5th is the first game, Baltimore KC. So as my friend emailed me, what are we doing? I said, well, you normally give me a couple of payments. Normally does 2 payments. I said, we can do that. He says, well, I want to do the 20%. I says, no, you can't. We're not doing the 20%. Normally that was reserved for a customer, right? So you're a customer, you've got my picks, and then you want my advice on playing a 5-team teaser, you can get some odds. And then I'd say, well, I'll do the 5-team, give me 20%. But if you're not a customer, I'm not going to do it because then you're getting my picks for nothing, right? Which is bullshit because the people who pay for it aren't going to be happy about that. So I'm not going to do that. Then I was they weren't betting enough. So it'd be a $200 payout. I'd get $40. Well, that's not worth my time to do it. I want to get about at least 100. That's about 500, like minimum. And if it goes 4-1, I don't get anything, and they got my 5 picks. So there's no way it makes any sense unless you're already a customer. That's what I do with Alex. He's a customer, so Alex will do a 5-16 teaser in college, but he's already got the picks. If he's already got the picks, then I don't care about it. But if you don't have you can't use it in lieu of the picks. Oh, give me a 5-team teaser, but I won't buy from you. Well, no, because then you're getting my picks for free, and that's not going to work. So I'm waiting to see what he does. I said, well, we can do make the couple payments. That's what we've done last year. We'll do it again. It's fine. I understand times are tough. So if you want the picks, he usually buys the year. So it's $750 for the year. I give him a little break, like $650, and then okay, do $225, or 3 and 3 or something like that, and then the remainder. So that's what I'm doing. But you can't use that. I've had a guy where I would actually make the bet. He would make the bet for me, and I'd get 20%. But he fucked up and put in the wrong teams. It's costing me money. So I said, no, I don't think this is going to work. So just buy the picks, do what you want. You want my opinion, I will give you my opinion on the picks after you buy the picks. So anyway, and the class will be just like this baseball class where go through the games, go through the injuries, look at the quarterbacks, look at the teams, and then we'll pick. These are my picks. Boom, 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 just like I do with baseball. Or you buy them off the site, $100 a week. 75 college, 75 pro, 100 for both for 1 week. Or the locks, I think, are 77. Or you can do it another way. So that's kind of how I'm what I'm doing. Training camp is starting. Sounds amazing. Okay. Yeah, well, like I said, the first game is the first. So Chicago, we know, is open. I don't think Chicago has the coach or the offensive coordinator that can do what. See, the problem is Caleb's learning from this Lincoln Riley, but there's no Lincoln Riley in the NFL, so he's not going to get the same offense. And Lincoln Riley's offense, as we see, doesn't work in the NFL, and none of his quarterbacks work. Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, even Baker Mayfield, they don't work in the pros. Kyler Murray runs around and, okay, like he can sometimes get points. And Jalen Hurts, we saw what happened last 7 or 8 games. And then Baker Mayfield doesn't really use his system. So he was never really that type of quarterback. But now at USC, and my point was the kid in the bowl game threw for 7 touchdowns. Is he that good or no? It's the systems. That's why I question Caleb. I don't think they will have the right offense for him or offensive coordinator or head coach. And, well, we'll get him 3 receivers to throw to, no running back. I don't know how good the offensive line is and a good defense, but you can't just give him 3 receivers and think that's going to work. Look at Tagliabue. He's got Tyreek Hill and Waddle. They don't do anything. Did they make the playoff? Oh, yeah, they got killed in the playoffs by Kansas City. So that's my point. A good defensive team will stop a good offensive team. That's why you love the Jets, because they have Aaron Rodgers and the great defense. Buffalo has Josh Allen, who's okay, but they don't have a defense. That's the problem. New England always had a great defense and Brady. Now they don't have either, and they don't have a coach. Look for New England maybe to win 2 or 3 games. Brissett's okay, but nothing around him, no good coach. I question that whole hiring. What was that? So I don't really like New England. Carolina go 0. Tennessee will probably not do much. The Bears probably won't do much. They don't have the quarterback to run what they want to run, but nobody will believe it. It's a lot like gold. Caleb's not going to be good because we look at the Notre Dame and UCLA game. He did shit. Threw 3 interceptions, got sacked a bunch of times. They didn't score much. Oh, but in the pros, he'll do better. Oh, really? Like Notre Dame's better than the pro teams? Yeah, I don't think so. And it's the same thing when you tell, well, gold's going to go up. Well, why? It doesn't go up. It's, you say because of brics and because the dollar's going, oh, the dollar can't go out. I mean, it's the same principle, right? The dollar can't go out. You don't even know what inflation is. It's the printing of money, not the prices. The price is the effect of printing the money. What the printing the money is the inflation. So that's what you have. Nothing new with gold. Same old story. We're just waiting on brics. That'll be a couple more months, October, maybe September. They're running out of gold to keep doing the derivatives. So it's there, but we know what's going to happen. So you just, it's like waiting for the Titanic to sink. And you're going, wow, what's new on the Titanic? Does it sink yet? And you're like, not yet. We're still waiting on it. Anyway, nothing new. Just hold it, and it's going to go up through the roof. So that's the thing. But it's the same thing as the dollar. Well, it's the reserve currency. That's not what you look for. You look for how much has been printed and how much is coming back, and we're fucked. Because China, like when China sells their dollars and other countries, they sell the bonds. They take the dollars and buy gold with them, and the dollars come back to the U.S. That's their big problem. So I think the top 3 were Japan, China, I think Hong Kong, and there's a few. I mean, most of our debt is owed to countries. So people, well, what if we don't pay our debt? You're going to piss a lot of countries off, and nobody else will lend you money, and you're basically fucked. So If I borrowed $500 from Greg and John and I say, I'm not going to pay you back, you're probably not going to be happy. Well, so if the U.S. says we're not going to pay you back, probably going to piss off about 50 countries. Seems like it's every day the same with gold. Well, it's not true. It went to 2480. That's not every day. Now it's back down to about 2400, but that's okay. By the end of the week, be back to 2450 is my guess. There's too much demand. Again, the problem is it's not a physical market. It's a government price-controlled communistic market where the government sets the price, not the market. It doesn't matter how much we buy. That's not going to move the price. The price is moved by the derivatives based on the government wanting it to end here. They wanted it to end at 23.98. That's why it did. However, they're running out because they need gold to do the derivative, and they're running out of gold, so they won't be able to keep doing it. Once they're out of it, then it'll just keep going up because nobody in the right mind is selling it. Trump is speaking today, TK. Your man is, well, what's it saying? My mic is scratchy. Oh, did it just start being scratchy or has it been scratchy? You've been texting me, so I would assume you would have said that before. So I don't know why it's scratchy. It's the normal audio. I do know I tried twice and I didn't have audio. The audio didn't work. It went away. Okay. Yeah, my audio didn't, like I had all 6 of my circles were white, which I know then I don't have audio. Like now I can see some of them are not white, they're dark. I know the audio is working, but again, I don't know. From my side, I see myself, I'm moving and I'm talking. So I can't say that and if there's an audio problem or it's frozen or anything like that, I got to rely on you guys to leave me a note and say, hey, this is what's happening. Anyway, I think that's about it. So that's what's going on. So it's a normal Wednesday on our way to August. So yeah, training camp starting. Keep an eye on injuries, and we'll go through variables maybe tomorrow. Again, now in college, I'm reading my college. So yesterday, I don't know what I read. I think I was at Liberty. So you go to these smaller schools, you're trying to find the variables. You know, what's changed? Did the coach, there's a lot of coaches and quarterbacks that go in college, mostly. That's what makes college. You need 2 or 3 weeks to see what's going on, to get the new things. That's why I'm much better after about 4 weeks. So the first 4 weeks, I'll be a little bit sketchy. After about week 5, then I turn it on, and by week 10, I got it solid. Any new college games about? What college games? What are you talking about? Don't you know what a schedule is? Go to Yahoo and then look at college. There's no college till the 24th of August. I've gone over that a few times. So you got Florida State, Georgia Tech, and I think there's SMU and Nevada are the first games on the 24th. But they don't start for a while. It's funny how the NFL starts after Labor Day and the college starts before. So college has that first week to themselves, which I don't know. You'd think NFL would want to be Labor Day. Anyway, that's what's going on. Just buy your gold, buy your silver. You've got to stay stoic, and you've got to understand what's going on, and then you have to realize, okay, I got it. Yeah, dollars out, gold and silver going up. Then you look at COMEX and go, shit, the gold's not going up. And the silver, why aren't they? The dollar's out because it's totally different. It's COMEX is being the derivative market, the paper market, where people are doing derivatives, and it doesn't matter how much you sell or buy, it's not going anywhere. So you have to understand that. So you need to understand the concept, which is the dollar's going out, and that'll only leave gold. Gold will be your only choice, and it'll fly up because brics will have it. And if you want it to keep your wealth and everything, you'll need gold and silver. So that's really why you're buying it, is because the dollar's going out. And you can question that. Well, how can the dollar go out? We're the U.S. We're the, it can't go out. That's why I bring up the Roman Empire, because if you all lived in Rome, you would have said, "Oh, we can't go out. We're the Roman Empire." Well, yeah, but we took all the gold and silver out of our coins, which is debasement. The real reason, not when the dollar inflates, they're calling it debasement. I don't know what these guys. I think they're all on drugs. Mark McGuire and these guys. Fix the mic is bad again. I can't fix the mic. I don't have a choice. I can try muting it and bringing it back on. So there I muted it, and there I bring it. But there's nothing I can do. Maybe I'm not talking loud enough or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's what's going on. So the key is to understand it and stay stoic. I know I've analyzed it. I know I'm right. Everything I'm reading and got taught tells me you can't print the dollar to nothing, but that's the inflation. What it does is it ruins the value of the dollar, so it has no value, which then they have to increase prices because the dollar is worthless. So what you charge $10 for in a normal dollar, you now need to charge $100 for in this inflated dollar. So the dollar's losing the value. Not, Cheerios didn't go up from $2 to $5, but you see that and you blame Cheerio. Oh, they raised their prices. No, they didn't. The dollar is worth less, so they're trying to get more, but they can't because people aren't falling for it. So I go to the grocery store. I say that's all I see. All the cereals, 2 for $5, 2 for $6. Problem is, I don't want the big ones. I don't eat that much cereal. I did want to get a couple of 12 ounces were like 2 for $5, and I wanted to get those just in case we lose power. Jen is losing power a lot in the Ukraine in the middle of the war. And she found a bar that was open with a what do you call it? The generator. So she's saying, I don't have power for 5 hours, and my stuff in the refrigerator is getting. And as I said, go buy a bunch of fruit and go buy a bunch of nuts, and at least you'll have that to eat with the without needing the fridge. So that's why I kind of want the cereal, because the other problem is you go cook, I'll go make hamburgers or chicken or ribs or something. And you can't, because if you don't have power, let's say you cook it, then you keep it in the fridge, but you don't have power, the fridge doesn't work. And then you also won't be able to cook it because the stove won't work. That's the problem with the electricity, where you're storing the food, which makes sense, but you can't store, stuff you need to cook and then store in the fridge. You got to have cereal and tuna, canned stuff. You can't even really have soup because you'll need the stove to heat it up, or, so that won't work. It's got to be things you can just open the can and eat. Tuna fish and, Raisin Bran and fruit. I mean, that's it. You can't have anything, although I don't know how long we're going to last if it gets that bad, which I don't know. I don't think it will, because, again, you have You have too much invested with these other companies, like a Costco and a Target, Kroger's. They don't want to go out. I know Kroger's will put like dry ice. I used to work at Farmer Jack's, a grocery store, when I was a kid. And if they lost power, they would put cardboard and dry ice on the goods to keep them frozen. But again, even if you get a generator, the problem is long term, right? Okay, it might last a couple of days, but how long will it last? I mean, and is it going to get fixed? And you got idiots in charge, George Soros, that's their goal is not for you to survive. That's why they're hurting our food supply and our water supply. They're trying to get us out now. These cruel elites who have no fucking idea what they're doing. But we need to get rid of them. So, we got rid of Biden. That's a good step. We got rid of this director of Secret Service. That's a good step. But we don't get rid of George Soros. That's the problem. So anyway, that's about it. www.teaserking.com. Have a good night. I hope everybody's well. And I will see you tomorrow. I don't know. I was doing some at 11 o'clock and then going to the pool like I do on the weekends. But sometimes I just like to, it's my mood. I want to get out of the house. So I'd rather do this in the morning and then get out of the house and go to the lake or go to the pool, have dinner out. But if I'm cooking, I don't mind. Like now I'll make dinner and go from there. Anyway, have a good day. Buy your gold and silver. Just tunnel vision, stoic. We know that's the best thing to be in. Not stocks, certainly not money. We can't trust the banks. So you got to only trust yourself. And if you have physical gold in your hand, nobody can fuck with you. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a nice night.